Good morning. We're here with Jim Grieve from Scarborough Digital. Thank you very much for joining us, Jim.
No worries, mate. Nice to be here.
If you just dive straight in, if you'd like to tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and how long you've been doing it for, please.
Yeah, so Scarborough Digital actually has its history 20 years ago when the internet was a bit of a baby, and I've always been a bit of a techie nerd and building websites and doing those kind of things, and it evolved through my corporate world. Then in 2017 we decided that actually, instead of it being a bit of a hobby, let's make it the real business, and we started taking it out into the commercial world and started building the business from there. We've evolved a little bit from basic websites because we're now basically web, print, design and display, so it's based around graphic design, web coming together, and me and the team basically, that's how we work it all together, really. So yeah, it's anything to do with graphic design and anything to do with marketing, promotion, those kind of things.
Stuff. So 2017 starting point to pull it all together. There's something last couple of years called the pandemic or so. What was the biggest impact of that for you?
So the biggest impact was that there was twofold. So as I've mentioned, the design element, we were doing an awful lot of print, we were doing an awful lot of brochures, exhibition stands, those kind of things. And of course, that just completely died. That stopped overnight. A lot of projects just got completely shelved. But at the same time, what we saw was we saw a lot of micro businesses turn around and going, hang on, we can trade online, let's get ourselves up and running. And we sort of saw this big shift from, not necessarily from print and physical to 100% web-based, but we saw a lot more interest in social media and those kind of elements, and it expanded people's minds on what was possible rather than necessarily what was doable. But then what we also saw was a lot of people going, actually, because of the pandemic, we don't have an awful lot of money, so we'll have a go ourselves. So we'd done a lot of the coaching and we'd done a lot of the, hey, this is what we think you need, and then they'd vanish. And what we're starting to see now is those businesses that have managed to pull themselves through are now going, actually, the site and the social media elements and the design work that we've done ourselves is not really good enough, and we need to take it up a level to compete with those that are more established in the market. So it's been a bit of a strange one. So we've pivoted some of the products too. So we were doing face masks and we were doing screens and we were doing anything we could to keep ourselves in people's minds. But at the same time, we've got this constant this constant story of how do we move online and make it effective to all audiences.
So in terms of how it affected you as your business, are there kind of one or two things that have stuck that you can see that are working now?
Yeah, whereas before, if you opened up a retail store on the high street, pre-pandemic, what you would have probably done is open the doors, put your products in, and hope that the passing traffic would have done everything for you. One of the big things we've seen as a market shift is that now everybody sort of almost starts with their online presence and then creates a retail shop off the back of it. So what we're seeing is that there's this big shift into making sure that their online presence is correct, because that supports the physical business rather than it being the other way around, which makes a big difference, because it actually means that what we can do is we can then start helping people from point one and getting it right early doors, rather than it coming out the far end and going, it's really not worked for us, I need some help. And there's a bit of a flip on its head with that one, which is a great move.
So what do you see are the main challenges going forward, and what does the future look like for you?
So going forward, the biggest challenge is, because there's been a big move online, there's obviously been a lot more competition in the market. We've got a lot of new entrants into the regional area, into web design and graphic design. People who've been self-taught through the pandemic and those kind of things. And it's about making sure we're the most relevant to our client base as we move forward, and making sure that we're the most visible people around. And it was a question I asked you before we started this, was how did you find us? And it's constantly taking that feedback as to how we're being found and how we can develop that going forward, and making sure we're ahead of the competition with us, and also just delivering absolutely top rate products and top rate websites and design as and when is needed. That's the main challenges going forward, I think.
Brilliant. So just kind of moving into yourself as a business owner, what would you say is your biggest learning that you've had so far to date?
Somebody once told me when I left the corporate world and I moved into doing my own business, they said this one little thing, and it didn't make sense at the time, and it was network. And I went, what does that mean? I mean, did that mean going down to a local meet and having a cup of coffee with somebody, or did that mean doing something bigger and formal with some of the more formal networking businesses that are out there and those kind of things? And I never really knew what it meant until probably that's the start of the pandemic, where suddenly you start tapping into those wider networks. And the more people that you can meet, the more business cards you can pass over, virtual and physical, the more people that you can be remembered to. It's always an audience that you can tap into, and that networking should never stop. You know, you should always be looking to expand your network one way or another. And I guess this is why we're having this conversation as well. So, yeah.
Excellent. What is, if we were to go back in time, get in a time travel machine, go back, meet Jim at 18, what would be the best piece of advice you could give him at 18?
Don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah.
It's one I've really had to think about, this one. Don't be afraid to fail. I probably don't bother going to uni at this point, but don't be afraid to fail. Go out, have a go at it. If it fails, try again, do something different. Sure. You know, and just constantly take learnings from everything that you're doing. You know, if something doesn't quite work, it's either because you've got something completely wrong, or you've just not quite done it in the right way. So take the learnings, have another go, and really move forward and adapt and move forward with your business. And it's just have a go, and don't be afraid. You know,
constantly fail. There's nothing wrong with that, because it's another step to success, isn't it?
That's absolutely right.
So what inspires you then to kind of do what you do? It might be sort of friends, family, a famous figure, or books, or anything you're listening to, or it could be your work colleagues, your actual work. What is it you like to use inspiration for?
It's a bit of everything. I have a real passion for the coast, which is why we live here. It's why I put the name on the business, and all those kind of things. But it comes down to, I love things to be visually pleasing. I love things to work. I love things to be right. So I'm constantly taking inspiration from new pieces of design, both good and bad. And one of the reasons for coming into Wood End, which is where we're at the moment, in Scarborough, is it's a creative centre. So there's loads of inspiration that comes in. There's constantly different changing exhibitions. It's about taking those ideas from other people and really helping that move and migrate where you're going with your ideas. So everything's different every day. Everything develops all the time, and it's about taking those inspirations from other areas and different ideas and taking them forward.
Okay. So lastly, if there's any sort of latest news about your business, or any sort of maybe promotional aspects that you might want to mention.
So yeah, I mean, we've recently had this great opportunity to move from we were in a retail unit during lockdown, and that we didn't really need to be in a retail unit because most of our clients are office-based and those kind of things. So we've moved into the Wood End Centre here in Scarborough. We've developed our business so that we can now operate it in a much more corporate environment. And it's a great place to be because it gives us much more flexibility as to how we can manage our customers, gives us the flexibility to get out there and see a few more people that maybe we were tied to the office because you had an open door all the time. So we've moved into this fantastic facility that is Wood End. And we're basically expanding the business and down that route and making sure we focus on exactly what we need to be doing. And as part of that, what we invite anybody and everybody who's passing, pop by, knock on the door, come and see us. We'll have a coffee and a chat about any way we can help you with any of your marketing needs.
Good stuff. Excellent. Thanks very much, Jim. Great talking to you. And
no problem.
Thanks for your time.
Absolutely brilliant. Cheers, mate. Thanks a lot.